Welcome back. As you can see, I am surrounded by Tidbit trays. And the reason for this is I've gotten a lot of questions lately from viewers who are making their own Tidbit trays. And based on those questions, it's pretty clear some of you are taking it to the next level and need a little more information. So when we come back, all right, surrounded by Tidbit trays. Well, let's start off with our little classic Tidbit tray. It's 2, maybe 3 plates, and it's attached with the hardware. Simple, very easy to wrap your head around. But we are looking at some different designs, because something like that's very pretty, but it's rather ordinary. Even though that's a very nice, well, actually, let me take that back. We have a hand-painted plate on the bottom and a reticulated plate on the top. So it's not that ordinary, but just in terms of the fact that we're using round plates and we know how to find the centers of them, we know how to put them together, we know how they work. That makes it fairly simple. In other words, we can use any reasonably round plate we want and just template it off that model and we're in business. But here's another one. This one, this is greens and pinks. Greens and pinks with a little bowl on the top. Obviously, I can put a bowl on just as easily as I can put a plate or a cup or anything else up here. I'm assuming this would probably be for dips and little bits of crudité and, green being green and all. Great. Same basic principle. The only difference is we've got a little bowl on top. That's the sort of thing that would work out very well if you have odd little things, unusually shaped candy dishes, whatever. Just pop it on top of your Tidbit trays. Now, I'm sure you remember this. This was the giveaway from last week. Wait, no, the week before. The week before last, there we go. And the Photobomb Kitty has already chosen a winner for this piece. Cup and saucer. And some people had asked, what do you do with a cup and saucer? And so here's the one from my bathroom. It's got little perfume samples in the cup. Now, mind you, this cup is smaller, as you can see. And it's got little, lotion things, whatever. It's got stuff in it that I really can't house more conveniently elsewhere. So now it's all clustered together. It's all very attractive. It's so much nicer than, as you all know, it had been in a little Chinese restaurant takeout soy sauce container before. One of those little plastic things. Yeah, embarrassing. So, upgrade. This, which is another cup and saucer piece. This is interesting. I got these together. They are a set. They match. We've got a sugar bowl. We've got a cup and saucer. Well, a sugar bowl and a cup and saucer are all well and good, but that's really not a useful set of anything unless you have overwhelming cravings for sugar water. So turning this into a tiered tray makes more sense. And now this can be useful in many other ways. I was thinking if I were going to put that in the kitchen, I would use it for tea. I'd stick my tea bags in here, and I would use the cup portion for sugar cubes, and the bottom for lemon slices. Very easy. But in fact, that looks awfully good in my bedroom, so who knows? Maybe it's just going to hold a bunch of jewelry. We'll see. That's one of the pieces. I'm not sure it's going to make it to Etsy. It has to. I don't want to turn into a hoarder. All right, I need to talk myself out of this. But let me show you some different. Now we're getting into the really kind of different stuff. This is a really nice little set of Lusterware pieces. Oh, by the way, I'll show you close-up photos of this as usual. We've got a little parrot down at the bottom, a little matching saucer here. So I found a little Lusterware ashtray. And we've got the birds. This bird actually matches the coloration. So we've got the peach and white running through. And this little bird is blue, and we've got blue on our plates. So it really turned out to be a great match. What are we going to do with the little bird bath / ashtray? I have absolutely no idea. It's too small to hold much of anything, and because the little divot where you would place the cigarette is here in the front and not on the sides. See, if it were on the sides, we could drop a paintbrush on it, but since it's on the front, we can't. So I don't know. I think it's just going to end up being decorative, but I would imagine a bird lover is going to be awfully happy to have this, because the great thing about this is it's a unique piece. This is the only one of its kind in the universe. You may be able to find other plates like this. You might even be able to find another little ashtray like this, but you're not going to find them all put together. So, totally unique. Oh, this one. This is the one that I know you had a lot of questions about. And if you'll recall, I said we were taking these pieces and we were making a gift for our channel's resident artist, and she could put her little brush on the top of the ashtray, and as you see, it holds it very nicely. I made some changes from my original notion. Those of you who saw that video will recall, I'm sure, that I was going to put 2 plates in. Well, unfortunately, that put my little ashtray up too high, and she doesn't need to be reaching up like this, you know, to put her brush in the brush holder. So I reduced it by 1 plate, got the other plate in here, and I decided to put the top holder in. Originally I was not going to do that. I was just going to leave this sort of open, and it would just end right here, and this would be the top. But after playing around with the design, and this will happen to you too, I'm sure, I realized it would probably be best if I gave her an easy way to remove our little watercolor water holder, brush holder, affair, ashtray thing. I have no idea. Well, I'm just going to refer to it as an ashtray, even though I know cigarettes are not going to end up going into it. This can easily be twisted off. And a lot of people had said, well, how is it going to be watertight? All of these, if you use the right hardware, are watertight. They all have little rubber or plastic washers that will keep them watertight. But on something like this, it's not going to hold a great deal of water. And if you would like to get the water out of this, let's say you filled it with water and you're doing your painting and now you're done, you just drop a paper towel in there and the paper towel will absorb all the water. Then you twist this off, bang, take it out, you can wash it. And if your water isn't too dirty, you probably don't even need to wash it. I don't know, I'm not an artist. I don't know how these things work. So, we did have questions about that. Very easy to resolve. But in fact, the little piece here, the top piece, was put in just so when she wants to have to take that ashtray out, She won't need to go grab pliers or whatever to undo the screws. It'll just be twist and go. And that was a practical consideration that I made so this would be easier to use on the other end. I'm actually relatively pleased by the way that came out, and I think it's going to be very useful because the bowl, as we can see, will hold a lot of stuff. The plate will hold a lot of stuff. The other plate was smaller, and I decided to leave her with the larger plate just because bigger plates hold more. But I think this is going to be something she will be able to use and do her work with. So those were the considerations on that. Now, we had questions about some other things too. And one of them was, how do you find the center of a plate like this? Okay. You know, you find it the same way you find the center of any plate. Remember, we just drop it down on a piece of paper, trace it around, and cut it out. And I've done all that already because it's, it's time consuming, and you know how to cut paper. And then, because this is, please note, bilateral symmetry. So boy, don't we have some nice words for today. Each half is a mirror image of one another. So, and that is bilateral symmetry. Bilateral means two halves, half. And symmetry means to match up. So something that is perfectly symmetrical would be a dish. No matter which way you turn it, the halves match. Symmetry, by the way, we get it from French, and they get it from Latin, and it means proportion. That's the way the French used it. From Latin, it meant with measure. So these are measurement terms. See, this one, you start turning this, and suddenly those halves are not matching. So bilateral symmetry, full symmetry. So we take this, we have our shape, we fold it in half, which we can do because it's bilaterally symmetrical. That's a great insult. This is one you should use. I can just hear it now. George, I am so tired of your constant bilateral symmetry. And walk out the door. And then wait until George has to get the dictionary to figure out if you have insulted him or not. So, when we've got it, fold in half, and now we have a new line. And we just fold across this line. Here's our corner. So let's just snip out that corner. Center point right here. And then we can just lay it on top and mark our center point, which will be right about here. Now, some of you have noticed right away that we have a little bit of a problem, because if we were to draw a line across this plate at the center point, the top half is much smaller than the bottom half. There's way more plate below the horizon, so to speak. So if we were going to center this according to the mass of the plate, we'd have to drop that pretty low, and then we'd have the same amount of plate down at the bottom as we have at the top. But we're not going to do that, because that is not something that really looks attractive. We want to keep it in the center, even though it's sort of the visual center of the plate, and it's not the center of mass. But that gives us some problems, and let me show you with this one. Roughly similar, these are a little, they're a little more sort of quarter moon shaped pieces. We got 3 of them here. Big mistake. When I put this on the table, it wants to tip forward. Remember, much more plate. Here, we'll turn it on the side. Much more plate on this side than on this side. So it wants to lean forward. And these are fairly heavy plates. So I'm going to take that one apart. I'm taking the bottom tier off, and it'll be 2 plates high, not 3. Same with when I do these, 2 plates. It will remain stable going up 2 plates high, but by the time you get up to 3, it's starting to get unstable and potentially dangerous. And a tray like this, which is small and, it's floral, is probably going to be used as a jewelry tray or a cosmetics tray, a trinket tray, rather than to serve food, because not a lot of food would go on this. And you take somebody who's going to put a heavy bracelet up here on the top corner, and that could come over. So we don't want that. We don't want anybody tipping their trays, smashing it up, getting hurt on broken ceramics, etc. So we're going to go down to 2 levels on that. So keep that in mind. We are dealing with the difference between a visually pleasing center point and a center of mass. And when you are suspending one plate over another, if you're not at the center of mass, it can topple. 2 plates high, it won't. They're not heavy enough for that, but when you get to 3 plates, heaven forbid you get to 4, you're going to have problems. So odd-shaped plates, keep it to 2, don't exceed that. So what about this? This is going to become a tidbit tray. And in this case, we're not going over to the center. We're going to do an asymmetrical tidbit tray with this one. And we are going to drill right about here, because this is the piece. I went through a lot of choices on this, and I decided that these 2 are the ones that I like together. So we're going to start with this one. We're back to the same issue of finding the center, finding the area that is most visually pleasant to use as our center, as opposed to finding our center of mass. Now, if we measured side to side on this, our center would be right about here somewhere, which is nowhere near the center of mass. And in this case, it's going to look very funny that it's going to be over so close to the edge. So we're going to just sort of eliminate that little point, and we're eliminating the little stem. And we're going to choose a point in here. And I will be choosing a point right about here. Now, if you look at it, it's definitely going to be to one side, but it's going to come much closer to the center of mass. I know we didn't do it on that one, but we are doing it on this because this is completely asymmetrical, in which case it's going to look better. Now that, by the way, is a rule of thumb. If something is bilaterally symmetrical, you want a point somewhere along that axis that separates the 2 halves, and you're probably going to want it close to the center. It's just a visual thing. Something asymmetrical, you're going to want it near the center of mass. Again, just a visual thing. So we're going to put our hole in here. And when we choose where our hole here is coming, we're going to choose it based on the relationship between these 2 plates. We choose this hole on the top, then we line up, and we don't have to line our edges up precisely, but we want it to be roughly over here. This is on my right, so it'll be on your left. We want them to sort of match up. Now, if you notice, there's a little stem here, and there's a little sort of flange. Let me see if you can see that flange here. So that's good. we'll just line it up like this, and this will be a tidbit tray. And I like it. I think the colors look very good together, and I am envisioning this as a sort of chip and dip tray. A little bit of dip up here, some chips here. No, it's not going to feed an army, but frankly, most of us eat way too many chips to begin with. So, but I think this will work out. I think this will look like, I think it'll come together well. I think it'll create a very interesting piece. Oh, one more thing, because I raised this plate before. This is a really nice old rose medallion bread and butter plate that I picked up. I think this was when Jocelyn and I were in Emmitsburg, Maryland. I picked it up for $1. It had a chip, a fairly good sized chip. And as I say, showing you pictures of all this, I'll make sure you see this. I have not painted it in yet. I've just filled it. So we got a good sized chip here. Nevertheless, this is an antique piece. This is absolutely 19th century, beautiful piece. It's going to become part of a tidbit tray. Why? Because it's already damaged. So I don't want to say I don't have to worry about damaging it more, but once there's already a chip taken out of it, and I'm going to have to fill it and well, I've already filled it, but I'm going to have to repaint it. I don't have to worry about ruining an antique piece. Frankly, it was already ruined. It was ruined when I got it. And no matter what I do in terms of the repair, it's never going to have that same antique value, not even close, because this was a significant chip. Yeah, it's at least 1/8 of an inch. So that is something we need to be mindful of, because I have a lot of little pieces that do have nicks and dings and chips, and I think many of them are probably going to end up as tidbit trays. This one, for example, let's see if I can find this for you. Yes, I can. Right here, a little chip. This has been repaired. And now it's actually somewhere that it can actually be useful, because that chip just conveniently falls at the very back on the bottom of a tidbit tray, where it is never going to be seen because the chip was on the underside to begin with. So we have now a way of salvaging damaged china as well. So bilateral symmetry. When you're choosing your center point, choose the center of the plate. In this case, we're going to choose the center of the design. It looks best that way. Total asymmetry, choose the center of mass. Looks better that way. It's just the way it works. This one, of course, is completely asymmetrical. I am choosing neither. I'm coming over here. This is not the center of the design. It's not the center of mass. It's simply going to give us a very interesting little tray, but I'm doing that because I'm orienting it around this plate. And oh, and one of the reasons I can do this, by the way, is this is very heavy. This weighs almost a pound. This one doesn't even weigh 3 ounces. So having a little too much of the 3-ounce plate on one side is never going to unbalance this piece. So those are some of our options when dealing with tidbit trays. And we have a winner to announce today. Let me see if I can slide this out. Oh, wait, first, a little hand for the hardest working cat in show business. This was our Parrot Tulip plate, and our winner is Hope Walker. And Hope, by the way, is an antique painting expert. So remember that name. We come up with anything really valuable, we know who to talk to. But the cat, now we all know why he chose yesterday's winner. Shiny, shiny things. Any cat in his right mind is going to go after shiny, shiny things. Hope uses a little icon of a portrait by Van der Weyden, one of the great Dutch masters. In fact, I'm pretty sure he was considered the father of the Dutch masters. Beautiful portrait. And Audie the cat is very, very fond of Dutch Renaissance painters. I had no idea till he told me. It's like, why did you pick that? Because of Van der Weyden. Okay, fine. My cat is an intellectual. All right. Tomorrow we will be back. We will see you then. Meantime, any questions about Tidbit trays? As you can see, we're really pushing the edges of the envelope here. And Hope and Shiny Shiny Things, get back to us as quickly as you can, because we have a lot more giveaways and I need to finish the outstanding ones up before I start the new ones. But boy, do we have giveaways in the bag for you. And we'll talk a little bit about that tomorrow. See you then.